What up? What up? What up? What is up, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning in to this full mast episode of the Backwards K Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Chris Asbrock, and as always, each and every week, I'm joined by my co-host, Scott Kaiser. Scott, how you doing, my man?
I don't know, man. I'm doing pretty good. We came wearing matching hats, so it must be a sign. Look at you wearing the show gear, too. I like it. Looking sexy, my man.
Yeah, nice little pull. I got a nice pullover, too. I mean, got to represent when we're out and about. You know what I'm saying?
I see you.
Heck yeah. Well, this episode might be, it might be 5 minutes long. It might be our normal showtime. But here's the thing. Scott gives me a ration of shit for mispronouncing a name or getting a name confused with somebody else, and yet he's here to completely wreck our show by forgetting his power cord for his computer. So we have no idea how long this show is going to go.
First of all, there's no reason to give them a peek behind the curtain.
Oh, no, I'm going to.
And the fact that you're still bitter a week later about Nicky Lopez says a lot more about you than it does me.
In all fairness, I'm not. I just had to wait a week to get you in front of everybody. That's all it was, man.
That's fine, because when I saw the Braves playing against Nicky Lopez today, the first person I thought about was you.
Of course you did, because why not? God, man. Well, in all fairness, we have opening weekend in the books. We've had a full series of baseball, and we've had a couple surprises, a couple not so surprises, and some phenomenal performances. Throughout, the opening weekend, I mean, you couldn't really ask for much more, especially here in Cincinnati, with the way with the way it all started on Thursday on opening day with a nice, comfortable win. And then you go Saturday where you blow it in the ninth inning, to yesterday, you're down to your final out and you get a double and then back-to-back bombs to walk off the Nationals to salvage the series, which, easily could have been a sweep. They could have dropped 2 of 3. Instead, they win 2 of 3. So, overall, that's just kind of how the season has started so far. It's kind of crazy already. Scott, so far throughout this, opening weekend, what were your thoughts, and basically in terms of what you saw so far?
Well, Braves did their thing and took care of business against the Phillies in 2 out of 3. Should have been 3 out of 3, but we'll forgive the fact that the Phillies did figure out a way to play winning baseball at the end of the weekend. But overall, pretty solid weekend for the most part. And we're going to get into it in a little bit here. But, man, there were some god-awful pitching performances sprinkled throughout not only opening day, but the entire weekend. So I want to get into that. But, the usual opening weekend shenanigans where there's some guys who aren't usually household names putting up big numbers, some dramatic wins, and then the usual suspects doing their things. I even want to talk about this will shock most viewers and especially you, but I even want to talk about the Yankees going undefeated in the opening weekend. How about that? And the Buccos are 5-0 for the first time after winning today, just a couple hours ago. First time since 1983. So there's a bunch of different teams to talk about, some pitching performances, and like I said, a few other things. So we'll get to all of that.
You know what? Let's start with New York, the Yankees.
Cool.
They're a team that, I mean, we as baseball, fans, enthusiasts, or whatever you want to call us, it was kind of, going into the season, we knew they were going to be good. We just didn't know how good. Now, let's be real. Based off of the weekend, this is the best part. I was, Scott, we were texting just a couple of days ago about how we were excited for the show, today because it's Overreaction Monday. I got my neighbors who are diehard Yankees fans, and he's, their son who's in high school here. He was like, "Man, we're back, baby, we're back," and I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's only, 4 games in. I get it, but. In all fairness, though, I mean, you do have they do have a point. But overall, I mean, the Yankees went down to Houston, Houston struggled, dating back to last year. They've struggled at home, and that continued this past weekend, and the Yankees took 4 from them. They still have 4-0, sweeping the Houston Astros. I mean, and it's just an impressive performance throughout that entire series by Juan Soto, which honestly comes to no surprise.
It was interesting to see him get off to the fast start because so many times we've seen Yankees free agency and offseason trades working the other way, and they get off to a slow start, and people start to question immediately whether or not they're going to fit into New York. But Juan Soto is a different type of guy, and I know there's been some questions about his power output and certain things surrounding his batting profile ever since he had that really big monster MVP year when the Nationals won the World Series back in 2019. But Juan Soto getting out to a fast start in his Yankees career, unfortunate for us non-Yankees fans. But it was nice to see good baseball being played there between two teams that have met each other in the postseason a couple of times and had some dog fights there. I know that Yankees fans aren't big fans of those in Houston, and nobody likes the Yankees when it comes to the rest of the league. So I'm sure that the Houston fans are a little bit bitter this morning, but it makes the Yankees fall the rest of the season that much more. It'll make it that much more fun to have them start off 4-0 and have their fans proclaiming that they're back when they stumble flat on their face later on in the season. That's why I enjoy it, because you go on ahead and win the first weekend and thump your chest and think everything's all good. But we've discussed many of the issues surrounding the Yankees. They've still got a lot of those problems, and one weekend against the Astros, just because it's opening weekend, isn't going to change a whole lot. But again, it's nice to see them feel good about themselves for now, and later on the fall will be coming. As far as I see the things that they've played out this way before for the Yankees. So,
well, in all fairness, it could start tonight. They're on a series against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and Arizona. I mean, granted, they played Colorado, but I mean, Arizona again is no joke. I mean, Arizona's a team that both. I think you picked them to be in the playoffs as well, or no? I don't remember.
I did. I had the Dodgers winning the West, obviously, but I believe that I had the Diamondbacks getting a wild card, but suffering a little bit from that hangover from the World Series. I might have even had them out of the playoffs, but I definitely do have them taking a step back from getting all the way to the World Series and representing the National League. That was for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I had them in the playoffs, but I didn't have winning. I don't think really, going too far. But regardless, Arizona is a damn good baseball team, and it'll be interesting to see if they go and say they sweep New York, these next 3 games. Then okay, now you quickly put out that fire, that these the Yankee fans have set. Being so ecstatic about the way they started. But again, baseball is a humbling game. And, you go 4-0 over a Houston team. Again, opening weekend, it changes a lot. I mean, you're going to see teams that come flying out of the gate who are going to fall flat on their face later on. You're going to see teams that are going to start off mighty slow that are going to pick it up and move on from there. But, for the Yankees, impressive stuff, though. Again, Juan Soto, I mean, the dude has, what did I say? He had 9 hits in that 4-game series, including his first home run as a Yankee in game 3 of that series. I mean, Juan Soto, I believe I said he was going to win the MVP, and I believe you said that was, I went chalk on that one, which, I mean, okay, and I'm okay with that because everything just kind of was easy, for that to, to occur. I mean, I guess is the easiest way to put it. The way he's going to bat in that lineup, the protection he has around him, and that's what it's, showing so far. Good on him. And baseball is better, regardless whether we like the teams or not, or the players or not. Baseball's better when the top players and the top teams are playing, great baseball.
I don't know about that. I mean, I can do without the Yankees doing anything.
I could too, but it's still, but it adds fuel to our fire that our fueled our hatred for him and many other people's hatred for him when they're playing well. But it also, when they're not, it fuels our joy as well. But especially when teams, or when players are playing really well, for example, like a Juan Soto, that's what you want to see. And I mean, Yankees came out and proved in the first weekend series of the season, again, up 4-0 there on Houston, exercising some demons. So impressive stuff from New York. Now let's move to another team that exercised some demons. Your Atlanta Braves, Scott, taking 2 of 3 from Philadelphia. Bet that had to feel really good, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice and all, but it's the regular season. It's opening weekend. It's not October. So while it's fun to beat down the Phillies, because the first two games Braves got after them, outscoring them by quite a bit, and then the third game the Phillies obviously came back and ended up winning the 1-run contest. But it's always nice to smack Phillies fans around because they like to run their mouths like New York fans, and it quickly turned from, this is a playoff type atmosphere and, we're going to do it again, to, oh, well, it's only opening weekend and these games don't matter. Quite funny how that goes when you lose those games, but it's all fun and games. I got a few friends that are Philadelphia fans and we went back and forth, but we all know at the end of the day, it's not about early March or late March and early April. It's about what happens in October. Philly team still has really good roster, still have really good players. I still respect the hell out of them as a baseball team overall. And while I want to beat them every single time out there, I understand that it's not realistic. And I just hope that the Braves can flip it come October. But always nice to get off to a good start and keep things rolling into the regular season, picking right back up where you left off as far as the records go and the high octane offense. Chris Sale looked good in his debut, so I'll take that. Max Fried, not so good in the second game. Offense bailed him out. But overall, good to see things going in the right direction for the Braves to start the season. We've got some fans checking in the comment section about the opening weekend. Matt Barr saying that Rhys Hoskins is Bush League, but the Mets managed to handle that situation terribly. What a bad team they are right now. He, of course, is a Mets fan, so he has plenty of perspective on how terrible the Mets are. Rexamillion saying that he likes the offense that Cleveland showed, but it was also against the A's. Cleveland did have a good weekend, and we'll talk a little bit about the A's who sent Asterio Ruiz down this afternoon for God knows what reason, but otherwise being a poverty franchise. And JB chiming in saying the Tigers are going 162, baby, which could be a tall task, but the Tigers did look good. That starting pitching, I picked the Tigers to win the Central Division there in the American League because it's a shit show and it's anybody's guess who's going to win at the end of the day, but the Tigers look good coming out of the gate. And if they can carry that starting pitching throughout the regular season, they are going to continue to be a force to be reckoned with in that American League Central.
Yeah, that was good stuff there from Detroit. And I believe I had them second, I think, in the division, kind of battling out with Kansas City. But man, that was a great performance by Detroit. Let's touch on that Mets series. So Milwaukee and New York, it kind of played out honestly like I thought it would, because I don't think the Mets are that good. Milwaukee, I think, is a team that's going to start off, relatively, I don't want to say hot, but they're going to start off relatively well, and then they're going to fade off, I think, as the season continues to progress. I do believe the Corbin Burns loss is going to be felt more than you would think, at least to start off. But Milwaukee goes into New York and takes all three, and we had a nice dust up in that one there. We had a suspension. It's just crazy stuff. And again, I saw somebody saying, why boo Rhys Hoskins? The guy played in Philadelphia. The boos only give him power, and that's kind of how it played out. But Scott, in terms of that, I mean, obviously, I know you're excited about it being an NL East guy. But were you surprised at the way that series played out in terms of Milwaukee taking all three, or how did you think that would play out?
I didn't see anything overly shocking. The Mets, despite their gigantic payroll, have quite a few holes sprinkled throughout their roster, and starting pitching is one of their weakest points. So they struggled there over the weekend. Milwaukee's a decent middle of the road team, and at the top there, they're a little bit better than the Mets are. So, like you said, they should be able to take care of a team like a Mets roster wise. Sweeping a team is hard for anybody, so I never say that I expect anybody to go, especially on the road somewhere, and sweep somebody. That's a nice showing by Milwaukee to start off the season. But I did think that the Rhys Hoskins slide was pretty Bush League. And Rhys Hoskins being a guy from Philadelphia and having a couple of those guys sprinkled throughout their history, it wasn't shocking to see something like that. I will agree that booing him only gives him more power. But in that situation, that is what you're supposed to do, because the guy went spikes first and the slide was a
Yeah.
little aggressive opening weekend. You don't want to see anybody getting hurt. And, I'm also not a fan of retaliation by throwing at guys. And I know that's how baseball tries to police itself. I could do without it, because you don't want guys getting hurt, especially that didn't have anything to do with the play. So I'm glad that baseball stepped in and made sure that they sent the message that they won't tolerate the throwing at guys. But, I'm not surprised that the Mets felt like they also needed to, send a message back to the Brewers that they weren't going to just take things lying down, and that the cheap slide didn't go unnoticed. So I'm glad that while they went about it the wrong way, they didn't just take it and leave it like that. But that's how baseball goes. It's hard fought sometimes. I'm sure that these teams aren't done with the retribution, and the next time they play in Milwaukee, I'm sure that there'll be some things said and some things done, and the warnings will be thrown out there before the series starts. But good series overall if you're a Brewers fan, and the Mets fans, well, it's more of the same.
Well, touching on that though, in terms of the the retaliation and the so-called self-punishment there on that, I don't mind the throwing at guys, as long as it's, I think, one, it needed to be done that same game. That way it's out of the way and done, not the next game in the sixth inning. I think that's stupid. I understand why it was done. Doesn't mean I like it, because I just think it was, because you don't want to get rid of your starting pitcher, early on because of that, or the umpires see that, okay, hey, this is going to happen, and you don't want an umpire to toss your starting pitcher, in the first inning or second inning or whatever. But to me, I think that's got to get taken care of, right from the get go, and then I think that it settles down then. And I'm okay with baseball policing itself. I think that's perfectly fine. Again, it was a Bush League slide, little aggressive. Again, on the first game of the season, little much. But also, I think it was a little ridiculous, though, the retaliation the following game in the sixth inning. Like I said, get it out of the way early, get it done, over with, and move on and go from there. But again, good start from the Milwaukee Brewers. Start off 3-0. Team that some people, I mean, again, with the NL Central being such a gong show, some people have picked them to win the division. Some people I've seen had them finishing fourth or fifth even in the division. So, God only knows, but that's a good start for Milwaukee. As as this season unfolds, we'll see how it plays out. But again, a good sweep for for the NL Central team. Moving on to another NL Central team that had a huge sweep this weekend, the freaking Buccos. My God, Pittsburgh goes down to Miami and takes all four from the Marlins. I mean, who would have thought, man? Who would have thought? I mean, Pittsburgh, we knew was going to be a relatively decent team, and they are, I wouldn't say here in the next year or two, they're going to be a pretty big force to be reckoned with, I think, especially in the NL Central, with all the talent they have coming up and the pitching. But man, another impressive performance by Pittsburgh, starting off the season. I mean, and it's another NL East foe of yours, Scott, that takes a big fat 0 in the win column to start off. So again, another series you've got to be thrilled with, because that's a team that is gonna. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to compete with the Braves for the division, but they're going to have a little bit of say, because they're scrappy enough to where they're going to be, you know, just as big of a pain in the ass to play, I think, in most series than you would expect.
Well, I mean, the Marlins did make the playoffs last year for the first time in a while. They're more of a pesky team than anything, but they've dealt with some injuries and an offseason where they sat on their hands and didn't do next to anything to improve their team, unless you're scared of Tim Anderson signing within the division, which I'm not. So but it's always nice whenever NL opponents lose, or NL East opponents lose in the same weekend, where you're taking on one and you're able to knock them down 2 out of 3. So between the Marlins doing that, the Mets doing their thing, and then we go to Cincinnati, where the Reds took care of business against the lowly Nationals. I mean, I'll take all of it. Every single team, NL East team that wants to lose on any given day, works for me. So I have no complaints about that Marlin series. It was a little bit surprising for the Bucks, but you mentioned that they have quite a bit of talent there. The problem has never been acquiring for talent for Pittsburgh. The problem has been keeping the damn talent there.
Well, yeah.
If you look throughout the league, there's quite a few people on rosters that play prominent roles that were drafted and developed by Pittsburgh, only to see traded away or lost through free agency. So for the Bucks, hopefully this is the start of a roster that they could maybe see stick together. I know they've made a few moves to keep things intact in the short term by signing Brian Reynolds to a long-term deal and the like, but they've never done anything to keep the core together for a long time. It's only been a 3, 4, 5-year window, and by the time the guys that they hope get to where they end up being, it's time to ship them off, or they're being pilfered by another team in free agency. So I hope for Pittsburgh's fans' sakes that they can actually keep this team intact for a little while, and they get to enjoy those young kids that they've got coming up. Because yeah, on the pitching side, they've got an embarrassment of riches, and the offense is coming together slowly but surely. So Pittsburgh is one of those teams where they got off to a really fast start last year and then kind of faded because the overall depth of talent isn't quite there yet, and it might not be there yet this year either. But I think that they're going to stick around just a little bit longer than they did last year, and can be pesky enough in that Central Division where there isn't a clear-cut dominant, beat you over the head runaway team in that division. So they could stay in that mix for a lot longer than we think, and they could be a reason that one of the teams that we expect to do well in Pittsburgh or Milwaukee maybe, and I know St. Louis is one that we both kind of thought might have a bounce back. They look pretty dreadful this weekend, but as long as Pittsburgh can keep playing like they did against Miami, they'll stay in the conversation, and I guess that's all you can ask for if you're a Pittsburgh fan after the last few years.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, the one acquisition I think is highly underrated. Well, it is now, based off of the start to the season. It's Michael A. Taylor. I mean, that dude, I want to say he's batting 471 through today's game, where they took care of Washington. But man, I mean, just a player like that who provides solid defensive play, and he's coming out there, like I said, in 17 at bats so far. Again, he's batting, it's 471, 4 ribbies, and the stolen base already. So, it's a player like that you bring in to help supplement, the other talent that you have. Guys like Rowdy Tellez, you have, again, O'Neal Cruz, Brian Reynolds. Guys like that are going to continue to develop. Henry Davis behind the plate. There was your, number 1 overall draft pick from a few years back. Guys like that, again, this team can come together. This could be a situation like Baltimore or Cincinnati last year, where things come together a year earlier, and, who knows what we could see from them. But again, great start from Pittsburgh. And I mean, it's good to see. That team has been, they've been dreadful over a year or two. It's been pretty rough. And like I said, team like that, with all the talent they have coming up, there's a good chance you're going to see them if they can stay healthy this year, uh, definitely in the talk for a wild card spot in the National League. I think they have that much talent and they're that good. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially like you said, Scott, in this NL Central, where I mean, God only knows what you're going to get game in and game out, and especially week in and week out in this division. So again, it's you never know. Overreaction Monday to the opening series. We'll we'll go to another series where I don't think it's really much of an overreaction, but you had mentioned the St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah, they struggled a little bit this weekend in Los Angeles, and you saw Los Angeles, the Dodgers show why they are hands down one of the top teams in baseball. And oh man, taking 3 or 4 from St. Louis there. Man, that's all you can really say. Dodgers are impressive, and again, it was against the St. Louis team that everyone's kind of on. But Scott, I know you're not a big Doyers fan, but in terms of what you saw this weekend, I mean, you got to be impressed.
I mean, the Dodgers did what I expected them to do against a Cardinals team that I don't expect much from. Dodgers didn't do anything that blew me away, but they did exactly what they're supposed to do. I was actually kind of honest. I know I said I don't expect many sweeps, but in a situation like that one, a little bit shocking to see the Cardinals even be able to win one because they struggled so much on offense besides Paul Goldschmidt. Nolan Arenado looks completely lost at the plate right now, and I know it's early, so guys can get things going, but he's one that they're going to count on for big things out of the hot corner there, and him getting off to a slow start, just like he did last year. I heard a lot of Cardinals fans rumbling and complaining that hey, here we go again, and it looks very similar to the way things did last year. And I think the Dodgers are tough measuring stick right out of the gates to say one way or the other. But if you're trying to compete against the best and you want to measure yourself against those top teams, not a great showing for the Cardinals. But there's only so much you can say about the Cardinals and the Dodgers. One team we expect to be there at the end. Another one is, probably going to get left in the dust. So talk to me about your Reds. What did you see on opening weekend? Because it's all the talk of the town here has been the Will Benson show, and I've been hyped up about that. How did you feel about the Reds opening weekend? Did you see anything that you liked or that you're thinking might be a detriment going throughout the season?
Honestly, this team reminds me a lot of last year's team. That we don't give a shit type attitude. We're not out of it until that final out. I mean, again, it's opening weekend, but they did what they were supposed to do against Nationals team that is, many people have picked to be, competing for dead last in all of the National League. I mean, granted, C.J. Abrams had a great series for Washington, but overall, the Reds did what they had to do. Phenomenal performance by Frankie Montas on opening day. I mean, just impressive. Right from the start, he goes 6 innings. So you see stuff like that, and it's like, okay, feeling better. And then capped off by Brent Suter, the local kid, the Mueller product. And it made me realize how old I am because I remember watching Brent Suter pitch in high school when he was at Mueller. And I'm like, man, that was a few years back. And I'm like, oh, man, it's definitely aged me. But it was crazy that was his first performance on opening day. It's definitely his first time he's ever been in Cincinnati for opening day as a player. And obviously, being a local kid, it was great. He goes out there and he goes 2 innings, strikes out 4. He looked great. That was the cap off, an impressive performance by Nick Martini, a guy that we didn't really know what we were going to be seeing from him, if anything, because it's like one of those things where, is he going to make the team? Is he not? We didn't know. Thankfully for him, injuries, did happen, and he capitalized on it. He goes yard twice on opening day. I mean, I couldn't have been happier for him. And I've said it before, there's no better place in baseball on opening day than Cincinnati. They do it right. If you ever get a chance, go. Scott, have you ever been to opening day here?
No, I've
Okay.
always had to work opening day. I've been
Yeah.
around and on the peripheral of the insanity, but I've never been in the midst of it. Opening day just about anywhere would be fun for me because I've never experienced it for any of the teams on either here or anywhere else around the country. So opening day is on my bucket list to be a part of instead of just behind the scenes one of these years.
There we go. Well, we'll have to make it happen one of these years because again, it's awesome, especially like I said here in Cincinnati, and then to cap it off, like I said, with a nice win and to start it off, and then you go and you take the lead in what was a back and forth game on Saturday, and then you lose it in the top of the ninth, and that was frustrating. Alexis Diaz, a guy that we thought would be our lockdown closer, was anything but. It happens. I'm not gonna harp on that too much. It is what it is. It's a shame that you couldn't wrap it up. You're just 3 outs away from taking the first 2 games, heading into the final game on Sunday. But unfortunately, they just they lost it. Again, that's something that we thought would be coming down to its pitching. This team's going to have the offense, and that's what we saw on Sunday. They would take the lead. The pitching would give it back up bullpen-wise. They would take the lead again, give it back up, and then they unfortunately were down going into the ninth inning. Jonathan India with 2 outs. They're down to their last out, on the verge of losing 2 of 3 to the Washington Nationals. Jonathan India puts in an incredible professional at bat, 10-pitch at bat, ropes a double down the left field line. Very next pitch, Will Benson, Yabo, left center field, ties it up. Place is going nuts. 2 pitches later, Christian Encarnacion Strand, walk off, his 3rd of his career. That's what is so awesome about this baseball team. Again, they remind me so much of last year's team. Just they don't quit. They've got that mix of the veteran player and Heimer Candelario. He's a huge addition. He went yard this weekend. But guys like that, obviously, Tyler Stevenson, Jonathan India, that talent, along with the young guys. Ellie De La Cruz, hopefully we'll see him pick it up here. Spencer Steer. And you got to remember, this is a team that is still missing TJ Friedel and Noel V. Marte for one, and Matt McClain. So there's 3 guys that were expected to contribute are out long term. Now, hopefully Friedel, they're saying he's progressing pretty well, but hopefully we'll see him much sooner rather than later. But again, young team, building off of that momentum from last year. Hopefully the pitching can supplement that and they can continue on a roll. Right now they're in a battle with the Philadelphia Phillies, but again, offensively, we'll see. But I there was a lot I did like from opening day here in Cincinnati, or opening weekend, I should say.
Well, you mentioned bad pitching, and there's some bad pitching that went on throughout majors, starting with your boy Cal Freeland out there in Colorado against the Diamondbacks there in Arizona. The Rockies gave up a 14 spot against Arizona. There was that opening night? Did that happen on opening night? I can't remember if that. Okay, so that was opening. That was opening night. Aaron Nola got touched up against the Braves on Saturday.
Yeah.
You had AJ Puck making his conversion from reliever to starter down there in Miami against Pittsburgh, who we talked about. He walked 6 and looked awful in 2 innings. You also had yesterday Michael King making his conversion from officially from Yankee to Padre and continuing his journey as a starter. He walked 7. I mean, you had Bailey Ober yesterday afternoon who got lit up for 8 earned runs in an inning and a third. There was some really bad starting pitching jobs done out there this weekend. And I was kind of surprised to see that because, you expect the pitching to even out along with the hitting. There's going to be some bad performances to go along with the good ones. But my God, some of the starters just went out there and got completely shellacked over the weekend. What did you think about some of those horrible pitching performances? Specifically, I mean, you're more familiar with your boy Kyle Freeland. Talk to me about what happened there to him, because you and I talked about it off the show. I give you a lot of shit about it, and he struggled throughout his career there in Colorado. But during spring training, he looked pretty good. He everybody was saying his velocity was up, and that he could have a sneaky good year. And then he just came out and laid an egg on opening day.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. I will say this: thank God I fell asleep because I woke up. I just remember I woke up to go to the gym, and I looked at my phone, and I was like, "Oh God, oh God." And I ate that one. I did. I shot you the text that morning. And I was like, and you were like, "I'm just gonna let it go. I wasn't gonna say a word." Well, good. I appreciate it. But you got his tit slit up, man. It was. I mean, the first two innings weren't anything, brutal. He got, I want to say it was Lourdes Gurriel, got him for a 2-run bomb in the first, where he just he missed the spot, couldn't get his. I want to say it was a breaking ball that kind of hung a little bit. And again, a guy like Lourdes Gurriel is going to make you pay, and he did, and he properly deposited the ball into the left field stands, and it was 2-0 just like that, but. It was, other than that, like I said, from what I saw, he didn't pitch bad until I fell asleep. And then apparently the wheels absolutely flew off. And against let's be real, against a lineup like the Diamondbacks lineup, that's going to happen. If you aren't hitting your spots or anything like that, if you're off, that a lineup like that, especially, is going to make you pay. And my God, they did. I want to say it was the tune of 10 earned runs, I think is what it was. And then the bullpen obviously didn't really help out either, but it wasn't pretty to start off there for my boy Kyle Freeland. And honestly, really another performance that wasn't the best either was Luis Castillo in Seattle. He gets the loss against the Red Sox, who nobody thought the Red Sox were going to do anything, and they go out there and take 2 or 3 from Seattle. Or no, they split the series 2-2. But again, Castillo didn't look very good. There was just performances overall that weren't very good. In terms of what you saw performance-wise, what performance stuck out negatively to you? Because we'll touch on the positive stuff here in a minute, but.
I think Bailey Ober struggling yesterday was a big shocker. He had a pretty solid spring. Everybody was expecting that he would start off the season pretty strong. So for him to go out there against the Royals and not make it out of the second inning was shocking. I guess I could say the same thing about AJ Puck. I mentioned him walking 6 in a start after, as a reliever, never really having much control problems. That was a little shocking. Could have just been first game jitters, first time starting jitters, him being a Florida kid and being back there in front of the Miami fans for his first ever start could have led to some of that. Aaron Nola getting fucked up by the Braves wasn't very shocking. I've said it many times before. Aaron Nola is not an ace. He is at best a number 2, and often he pitches like a number 3 or number 4. He's had the Braves number a couple of times in the playoffs. I'll give him that. And he's had his moments throughout his career. I just have never viewed him as a top of the rotation type guy. So for him to come out there and get teed off by the Braves both excited me and validated me. And then the Freeland thing I completely missed. But like I said, I wasn't going to give him shit because I've given you enough shit about him over the last year or so. And seeing that happen, I won't say it was shocking at all, but it was a little bit surprising, like I said, after the spring he had, to see him get it so badly touched up on in the first game. And nobody wants to come out there and just get unloaded on. And you're talking about walking six guys. Framber Valdez did the same thing there in New York on opening day, walked six. So that quite a few guys between Puck, Valdez, and Michael King walking 6 and 7 guys. There are a lot of free passes offered up over the weekend from starting pitching. I can't remember, but I'm sure Nola had to give up 3 or 4 in his start in order for the Braves to have teed off on him like they did. Besides, I know that they were getting plenty of pitches to hit, but those stuck out to me. But like I said, you do have to weigh the good and the bad when it comes to the fact that if there's good pitching performances, like we're going to talk about when we talk about a Corbin Burns just dealing on opening day, the inverse of that is that somebody's getting messed up out there. So
Yeah, you can't have the good without the bad, and we definitely saw the bad. Now let's touch on the good. Corbin Burns, like you had said, dude goes out there and he Ks 11 in his 6 innings against the Angels on opening day. Shane Bieber was another one. Shane Bieber looked like the Shane Bieber of old. That was another performance that was like, man, okay, I see what you're doing. But Corbin Burns, I think out of all of them, Corbin Burns might have been the most least surprising that you're going to expect just from what you've seen from Corbin Burns in the past. But man, if Baltimore's, if they're going to get a performance like that from Corbin Burns, that's going to be a huge boost to him. But overall, out of I'd say, hell with it. Compare between Shane Bieber and Corbin Burns. Which performance were you more impressed with?
I'm going to go with Corbin, or I'm going to go with Shane Bieber rather, because Shane has struggled over the last year or two with his velocity going down. He struggled with injuries last year at the forearm, and it was a little bit shocking, even if it was the A's, to see him strike out 11 on opening day. But I'm going to go with him over Burns, just barely, because Burns, he's won a Cy Young before. We know what he's capable of. And for him to go out there and put on a show in front of the Baltimore fans wasn't that shocking.
Yeah, that was it was impressive. But again, Shane Bieber, was great to see him, flat out dealing like he did. So that was, man, that's what they needed. And it's going to be interesting to see, because if he continues to perform like that, depending on what happens with Cleveland in the AL Central, I mean, that could be quite the trade piece, and something to definitely watch out for as the season moves on. But that's the Shane Bieber many people were expecting, and again, it was great to see him come back and deal like he did, for Cleveland, even though it was against the Oakland A's. But still, overall, impressive stuff.
Can we talk about the A's for a minute? I mentioned them earlier.
Yeah,
they sent down Esteury Ruiz earlier this afternoon, which I know he's struggled to hit, and he's got electric speed, and some people will say that he's more of a 4A player than he is an everyday starter in the major leagues. But what the hell are the A's doing something like that? He's at least their third best player on their roster, even if he is a 4A guy. And so it makes no sense for them to have sent him down. But on top of that, man, it was embarrassing. We knew coming into this season that the A's fans there in Oakland are not happy with ownership. They're not happy with the fact that the team is moving. The A's had to sign a kiss and make up deal to be able to even play in Oakland for the next couple of seasons, as they fumble this move to Las Vegas in a way that I've never seen a team fumble leaving a city. They would have been better off if they just did it like the Colts did and just left in the middle of the night. Like, for Christ's sakes, it is just an embarrassment going on there in Oakland. And again, when you see the stands and there's only 200 some people in the stadium, they got to fix things there in Oakland, because it's a shame to see.
I don't think you can. I mean, they've hit that point now to where it's truly impressive at how bad they have fumbled this entire situation. I mean, it truly is. I don't understand it, and they continue to mismanage every single thing they touch. And Asterio Ruiz, like you said, some say he's a 4A player. Well, on Oakland he's not. On some other teams, yeah, I'll give you that. But Oakland he's not. Like you said, he's their third best or so player. What the hell are you doing? Like, what are you doing? I saw that news today and I was like, okay. Again, no matter what, the Oakland A's continue to they continue to surprise us in each and every way possible. But man, like you said, this kiss and make up deal where, they, to play there over the next couple seasons, they had to, I want to say it was the deal I had heard, it was you had to pay like $97 million or something like that. And it's just, it's crazy. I truly don't get, this entire Oakland A's situation. I really don't. It's a shame because it's a franchise that has so much history, and those Oakland fans deserve so much more than what they're getting. And unfortunately, they're getting absolutely railroaded by an owner who is completely and utterly useless in a franchise that is, they can't help but mess up every single thing they touch. And it's a damn shame because, like I said, they deserve so much more. And God only knows what you're going to see as the season plays out in Oakland. But, man, as of right now, it's not pretty. It is not pretty at all. And, again, it was just capped off by a move today that a lot of people had their heads scratching on with Asterio Ruiz being sent down.
Mike chiming in to fade the A's, a little inside joke that we've got on Craft Brewed Sports where we talk about gambling and just strictly picking against the A's because betting against them over the entire season, you're guaranteed to make money. It's pretty easy money when we break it down. Our resident gambler Mookie had figured out that if we pick against them the entire season, you come out ahead. So. It's a sad state of affairs, but that's baseball in Oakland, and hopefully they'll get it figured out sooner rather than later. I mean, I even heard rumors, and there's the story out there now that the mayor is trying to get them to kind of quasi stay, and they'll end up playing in Sacramento potentially, and or if when they leave, Oakland will be able to keep the A's and brand, and they'll be granted an expansion team. There's all kinds of weird goings on. Like, I don't even understand it. I just want baseball to be played at a competent level wherever that franchise ends up, whether it be Las Vegas or staying in Oakland or moving to Sacramento, whatever it is. The fans that go to see that team deserve better than what they put out on the field day in and day out.
Oh, 1,000%. And the crazy part is I wouldn't say it's crazy. I guess it's kind of a good thing is at least it's not just only on the A's. It's the local government there too. It's a train wreck between, them and the A's battling back and forth on everything. It makes no sense. And it unfortunately it's bleeding out onto the field, and you're seeing an absolute crap product each and every game. It's a damn shame. Like I said, for a franchise that has so much history. And, I was telling my 13-year-old son, I want to say it was yesterday or the day before we were talking about the A's. And I was like, dude, if you only realize how good the A's were. And he was like, really? And I said, oh yeah. I'm like, you just, go back, the 80s and, how incredible they were and the talent they had on that team, even in the early 90s. Just, it's crazy to see how far they have fallen. And like you said, Scott, whether it's here or in Vegas, or not here, but whether it's there or in Vegas, man, something's got to change because, you cannot keep watching what Oakland's putting out each and every game. You just simply can't do it.
Yeah, well, let's move on from talking about the depressing part of the American League West. Can we talk about Wyatt Langford and his debut?
Yes.
And how much of a show he's put on since coming to the bigs? Wyatt Langford, a rookie, and in the truest sense of the word, was just drafted last year in the first year player draft in the first round. nearly made his major league debut at the end of last season. There was conversations that the Rangers had that he could have made the postseason roster and potentially even the World Series roster because he just came out hitting out of his mind. He carried that into spring training this year, hit 6 home runs, and was just the darling of spring training. Rolls that into an opening day roster spot. Has looked every bit the professional since he hasn't hit a home run yet, but hasn't gone hitless either. I know you're a big Texas guy, so please talk to me about Wyatt Langford.
Okay. Now, me being the big college baseball guy that I am, this was a pick when Texas selected Wyatt Langford. I was ecstatic because this dude can flat out play. For what he did at Florida, dude's impressive. I mean, flat out impressive. And to go from, NCAA level at University of Florida, where they've got some dudes on that team, which another guy you're going to see coming up, they call him, well, he's got a couple nicknames, but another player for Florida right now, Jack Caglione, is another name to watch out for in this coming draft. Same situation. He's going to be a guy that drafted last year, or he'll be drafted this year. I mean, and then you could see him playing, relatively quickly in the league. Same thing with Paul Skeens with Pittsburgh. What we saw coming out of the NCAA level last year is only capped off with what we've seen from Wyatt Langford. This dude, man, if you get a chance, watch some of his highlights at Florida last year. The guy was unbelievable. And if it wasn't for Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz, who Nationals fans are going to be just as excited for Dylan Cruz, he was hands down the Golden Spikes winner. Like, he was that good last year. And there was so much talent, in that NCAA level last year that he didn't win it. But by God, the joke's on everybody else, because this dude is with Texas, the defending World Series champions, and he's producing. He's so much fun to watch. Great. He's got a beautiful swing. Dude can flat out play. And
dude, I've already tuned into 2 of his at bats, like specifically saw that he was up and changed over to the Rangers game just to see what all the hype was about. And I mean, you'd have no idea that he was a rookie. I know he's 23, so that's at this age, or at this state in baseball, that's old. That's almost middle age. The way you got Jackson Churio coming up at 19, and some of these other guys that are coming up a little bit before they hit their early to mid 20s. So it feels like he's old, but man, he looks like a man standing there in the box. His gigantic forearms, dude looks like the whole package, and I'm happy to have him on my fantasy baseball team because I believed in the hype.
Yeah, you did.
And bought into the hype. So I am watching his career extra closely for this year to be sure, but he looks like the real deal so far. Like I said, he hasn't hit a home run, but he smoked a triple yesterday that would have been a home run in half the other stadiums. And every bet that I've seen him stand in there, he's taken pitches that you see other longtime major league guys hack at. So he's got a good eye. He's got a good approach. He seems to know what he's doing. And I like what I've seen so far. It still blows my mind to think that, when we were kids and growing up, guys, one, you barely heard about guys getting drafted to begin with. And 2, once they did get drafted, it was 5 or 6 years before you ever heard the name again, let alone see them do anything of note. And now guys are getting drafted, or, they're getting signed, or whatever it may be, however they're finding their way into professional baseball. And within 1 or 2 years, it's almost like if you don't hear from them or you don't see them on a major league roster, it almost feels like they're going to be a bust, or that they get declared a bust that early. So for a guy like Wyatt Langford to just come in and immediately look like he's been doing it for years, it still just blows my mind every time. And I mentioned Jackson Churio. He started opening day and has played, batted leadoff for different various parts of the Brewers lineup there in Milwaukee against the Mets this weekend. 19 years old. And I will never. I had my kids asking me about, because I don't even remember who it was, but somebody popped up on screen in the Braves Phillies game, and they said something about the age, and my oldest son said, he's 24 years old or something along those lines. And I'm like, yeah, well, he's like, well, how old do you have to be? And I'm like, well, that's kind of a moving scale, because there's somebody who's 19, and both of them were blown away at the idea that a 19 somebody could play baseball at that level. And I'm like, yeah, well, think about this. When I was a kid, it was even more unheard of for a guy to even be in professional baseball at the age of 19, let alone playing at the bigs.
It's crazy. And the good thing for Wyatt Langford is, he's being put in a lineup where he's not expected to do much. Like there's no pressure on him. I mean,
Yeah, he's batted sixth for most of the games. I saw he batted second yesterday, but yeah, there's no pressure because that lineup is so stacked there in Texas.
That's like the ultimate, situation for any young player coming into the bigs, to be put into a lineup like that again, where you're not expected to be the guy. I mean, there's a lot of the guys in that lineup. So again, it's set up perfectly for him. And like you were saying, the fact that I remember all the talk, last year in the playoffs was, Evan Carter. It was like, okay, Evan Carter was definitely going to come up, and he produced in the playoffs. And then it was also, well, are they also going to do the same thing with Langford? And they ultimately didn't. But it's crazy to think a guy at this time last year was playing SEC baseball, and look at him now. I mean, it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. And like I said, we're going to see the same thing with Paul Skeens. Like Skeens was sent down to AAA Indianapolis. He's just going to be down there just, for innings, to watch the innings a little bit. And you're going to see Paul Skeens this season for Pittsburgh. And this dude was dealing last year in the College World Series in one of the greatest seasons we have ever seen by a college pitcher. And you're going to see him this year. Like it's crazy how quickly these guys show up in the bigs, man. I mean, these guys have come a long, long way from, when we were their age and what the game looked like then compared to now. I mean, it's amazing. And then you've got guys like Jackson Merrill out in San Diego. There's another rookie outfielder. I mean, there's so much young talent in this league, man. It's crazy.
Well, and I enjoy that the game is skewed younger, because again, when we were kids, guys played into their late 30s, and not saying that baseball wasn't good, but I mean, you could tell the talent level and the athleticism and how things have changed from that aspect, just because these same guys that were playing in the minors at the age that these guys are now in the majors, all of that talent and then that athleticism was there. It was just being displayed at the minor league level and missed on the major league level, because that's just not how things were done. And guys had to meet certain progression, benchmarks for franchises to bring them. They had to play a certain amount of games, hit a certain amount of at bats, throw a certain amount of innings. Now franchises are like, screw it. We're signing these guys to big money right out of college or right out of high school. If they're ready, we're not gonna bother babying them. Yes, the pitchers get treated a little bit differently, and they're not as fast tracked. But you mentioned Skeens. There was a chance that the Pirates were going to bring him up last year at the end of the season just to get his feet wet. That's unheard of, years ago in baseball. Within the last 20 to 30 years. So I enjoy this brand of baseball. I would rather see the kids just come up and play right away. There's no reason to delay their growth or stunt their growth by keeping them in the minors. And if they're going to do major things, an example being Holiday. Since we were last on, Holiday got sent down. Jackson Holiday got sent down by the Orioles. And I don't want to say that there's nothing that the kid can get better at, or that he can't stand to improve on certain things. They said that they sent him down there so that he could get a better feel on left-handed starting pitching, because he didn't get to deal with and I understand that. But at the same time, he goes down there and he's batting 500 through 4 games. And what are we doing wasting bullets on a kid down in AAA if he could be doing a similar thing in the major leagues and everybody's waiting for it? He's the number one prospect in baseball. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of hype. Again, the game doesn't need anybody, but when you have a guy with his pedigree and his track to stardom, and everybody has been hearing his name since the day his name was called at the draft, there's no reason for the Orioles to waste him down in AAA. Get the kid up there and let's go.
1,000%. You're preaching the choir, my man. I mean, some of these guys, again, and the beautiful part is the game has changed in terms of the service time manipulation. That was
thankfully,
yes, that was a big issue, and they finally seemingly got that figured out. That was part of the last lockout, which, it sucked because I was down in Florida waiting to go to spring training, and they were locked out. So obviously I didn't go, which sucked, but it was great to see them fix that part because that was a huge issue. I mean, there's no reason that these teams should be manipulating the service time for some of these guys. There's no reason whatsoever. If they can produce, let them produce up at the big leagues, and it's only going to help your team. And that's how these teams got to look at it. And they're starting to do it more and more. Now, the Jackson Holiday thing, it sucks. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. If he continues to, to swing the bat like he is down there already. It's just going to continue to put pressure on the Orioles front office to make that move to bring him back up. But I mean, again, we're at a point now to where this game is so loaded with young talent that as a baseball fan, you cannot be any happier with what you're seeing right now from these young guys. And it's only going to get better because you have a draft class now, coming up here that is disgusting as well. And I mean, it's crazy. And again, it just continues to get better and better. And the talent is just deeper and deeper. And I mean, as baseball fans, this game is very, very healthy, and we are lucky to be seeing what we are right now. And it's basically headlined by guys like Wyatt Langford and Jackson Holiday and the young guys like that.
Now, as we wrap things up on this opening weekend, is there anything else that stood out to you or that you noticed or that you want to highlight? Because we've talked about quite a bit, and I did want to point out that there's a lot of sluggers that are getting off to some slow starts. Yeah, Yordan Alvarez hasn't hit a home run yet. Bryce Harper only played 2 out of the 3 games to start the opening weekend. I know they said it was because Chris Sale was a tough lefty yesterday that he sat. But it was a little bit surprising that some of the more household names have gotten off to a slower start this weekend. And I wondered if there was anything that you noticed that stuck out for you that in this opening weekend that you wanted to highlight.
I mean, honestly, no, not really. But in terms of the guys
all right, well, I'll be fucked then.
Yeah. Shut the hell up. Yeah. You're not going to run the show. Shit.
My bad. Sorry. I'll just sit over here and drive the backseat drive. My bad.
No, but in all seriousness, though, like, there were some guys that start off slow, which happens every year. But, you got guys like Mookie Betts, is looking.
Yeah, Mookie came out on fire.
He did, and he's looking like an MVP frontrunner. I know it's overreaction Monday. We're 5 games into the season or whatever, but Mookie was a lot of people's pick for MVP, and he's showing that. So it's performances like that. Juan Soto, same situation. Aaron Judge is kind of stumbled out of the gate, which is a little surprising.
No pun intended with his bulky toe.
I mean, I wasn't gonna.
I got no problem going there. His foot's fucked, and so is he.
But it's crazy to see, though. I mean, especially in that lineup, when you've got Soto, and I keep seeing all these memes online too about, how Yankees fans now could care less about Aaron Judge because Juan Soto is, he's coming out on fire. Kind of cracks me up, but in all seriousness, I'm not too surprised or alarmed, by some of the slow starts by the sluggers, per se. It happens every year. Unfortunately, it just depends on which guys it happens to. But like I said, it's been counteracted by guys that have come out completely on fire, and that's been impressive to see so far. But I do have real quick one thing that does piss me off. I guess or do you have anything, or I can go back to it real quick on the brushback?
No, I like I said, I think I've said everything. There was a little surprise there with the sluggers that have started off slow, and again, I know that there's always going to be guys that start off slower than others, but highlighting those guys and some of the wild starting pitching performances were my biggest takeaways, I think, from the weekend. And
Yeah.
kudos to the Pirates for starting off fast, even if we don't expect it to last throughout the whole season. As long as they're playing well, I'll be excited for them and for Pittsburgh fans. The anti-A's, if you will, like they're not spending money in Pittsburgh necessarily, but at least they're putting out a product out on the field that they don't have to be embarrassed about, that the fans can come out and enjoy. I mean, I know it's a much better stadium there in Pittsburgh, so it's a facilities thing too. But
yeah,
at least
where would you rather play?
At least Pittsburgh's trying on some avenues.
I mean, well, in all fairness, Pittsburgh, they spent money in the right spots. I mean, they didn't go all out like you said by any means, but they did make some moves that were pretty, again, pretty effective so far. But yeah, I mean, overall for an opening weekend, we saw some great games. We saw some great performances, pitching wise, hitting wise, and also on the flip side of that, some down performances. Which, again, with good comes the bad, and that's what we've seen. But really, nothing out of the ordinary outside of, I would say, the Yankees sweep of that series, maybe Boston. And Seattle's, like I said, set to compete. Other than that, I mean, it really wasn't, too extreme or out of the ordinary with the way things kind of played out. But, it was great to see, some of the performances that we saw from some of the other teams. But outside of that, Scott, do you have anything for our brushback segment?
I did not. I was going to let you take the mic. Nothing angered me enough this week to get fired up about. I thought maybe the Rhys Hoskins thing would get me going a little bit more, but it's Rhys Hoskins, and like I mentioned before, you kind of expect that thing out of Dirty X Phillies. So
yeah, I'll give you that one. But along the same lines of that, though, bench clearings, I think I mean, that is the biggest load of shit that I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, it really is. If you're going to clear the benches and you see the bullpens, empty and everything like that, for the love of God, fight. I mean, just fight. I mean, it is so. And I'm talking about the Blue Jays and Rays. Genesis Cabrera. I mean, dude, come on. I mean, you're going to shove, and it's like, okay. God only knows what happened there. There was a shove, and then next thing you know, benches are clearing, and everyone's hugging, and that was it. If you're going to empty the benches, the dugouts you're going to clear, the bullpens are going to empty. I want some swings. I want dudes to be. I want hands thrown, because it is ridiculous. It is. It drives me up a wall. It does, man. Like, it does.
Said if you're gonna put them up, then you better shove them.
Well, because that's coming from me. Like, I'm a hockey guy. I played hockey. So what would happen? We drop the gloves and go for it. That's what happens.
See, but I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, where I look at good old bench clearing nothingness. There's nothing funnier to me than, I mean, I don't mind guys, dusting each other up and
charging after me. That's
why. No, because I'm bullpen guy. I love the bullpen guys. I love the bullpen guys that come charging in from way out and, right or left field. And by the time they get there, the action's all over, and they're, just kind of playing patty cake and walking up and trying to figure out what's going on and don't really know. Like, I'm bullpen guy. So okay. I love good bench clearing brawl, because I love to see the bullpen guys come charging in.
I'll give you that. The bullpen stuff, those guys, they make me chuckle. I will give you that. I guess it's really more coming from the guys coming out of the dugout. Like, if you're gonna haul ass out there, then do it. The bullpen guys, again, that's just like, it's just a free for all there, and then that I do enjoy. I will give you that.
Yeah, I mean, it's generally, though, we know that baseball players aren't actually looking to fight. Like once it gets past the pitcher and batter exchange, if those two aren't the ones throwing hands, generally nobody else is looking to actually do anything.
I don't know. Well, yeah, outside of the Amir Garrett looking to fight the entire Pittsburgh dugout, that was pretty.
Well, yeah, I mean, there will be one hothead and usually in the group who's ready to fight everyone, but for the most part, everybody's just there to congregate and make sure that they're not the ones that got caught sitting in the dugout.
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, nobody wants to be the one that didn't move.
Yeah, kangaroo court will get you on that one, man. That'll be ugly. Yeah, that'd be bad. But again, like I said, if you're going to come out of the dugout hauling ass, in a situation, you better be swinging. Except for the bullpen guys, because that again, like I said, you got me on that one. That I do find humor in that because that's awesome. Like those guys just come jogging out, and it's just
running in with their jackets on, like they're not really looking to fight anybody, like and then every now and then. One of them every now and then gets held back for show, just to seem like they're really there.
Chest pumped out.
Yeah. Somebody holding somebody back, but they were never really gonna fight.
Oh yeah.
I think another one of my favorite parts of when they do have bench clearing brawls is when the coaches get into it, and one of the coaches happens to get steamed, and you see the coaches having to get held back. That usually gets me to giggle a fair amount too. I think that's probably my second favorite part of fights after the bullpen guys come sprinting in is when coaches want to get up in everybody's face and they're twice the age of these guys, and you just know that one punch would lay them out in most cases.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that one. I'll give you that. But again, overall, it's a bunch of let's see here. Go ahead.
Rexamillion says that baseball bench clearings are the guy yelling the whole time right before the fight starts, but then cowers in the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what pisses me off. Like I said, if you're coming out there, I want hands, man. I want to see hands being thrown. That's what it's all about.
Oh
man, these guys, it's just bitch ass, man. I can't stand that. I can't stand it. Like if I'm charging, I'm throwing hands. Plain and simple.
You were absolutely right. I'm not coming at you if we're ever on the opposite side of the diamond. If you're pitching, I'm just gonna take my base and walk on down respectfully. And if I'm throwing at you, I'm coming with a quick apology. My bad, dude. It slipped out of my hands. I swear to God. Or one of these pitchers that are like, look, I didn't want to throw at you, but it would just so happened. It was our time. Like, my bad, dude.
Yeah.
I'm apologizing immediately. I'm not there to fight. I'm bullpen guy all day. I might just wear a jacket on the field once the fight starts, regardless of the position I'm playing.
Okay, bring out my jacket.
Bullpen guy. Just so I get mistaken, lost in the shuffle.
Everyone's like, no, I swear he was on the mound. No, shit, I swear, no. See, I got my jacket on. I'm good.
Yeah, and then Mike's saying the same thing too. Loves when the bullpen guys get there just in time to believe it. Like, yeah, it's over, guys. Thought we're gonna fight. Like,
yeah, come on. Where's the action?
Where's everybody going? Where's everybody going?
Oh, good stuff.
Well, it was a hell of an opening weekend, man. If you don't have anything else, I think we can wrap it up there. Anything that you're looking forward to this upcoming week? We got any big matchups we should pay attention to, or anything of note?
Nothing really. I mean, there's some good matchups coming up. The Yankees. They've, like I said, they've got the Diamondbacks. Then they come back with the Jays. That's their home opener as well. That's a big series I'm watching out for. Other than that, no. I mean, it's good baseball. I mean, we're back, and it's
good to be back.
It is, man. Like I said, that's why this was a full mast edition of Backwards K, man, because it's what it is.
Full mast, just not full battery. I can't believe I did that. I didn't go into work tomorrow and see my battery sitting there on the floor. Like,
you're gonna look at it and be like, yeah. In all fairness, we got everything in we needed to, so it ain't that big of a deal,
It's opening day for me too, I guess.
I mean, hey, everyone struggles, It's all good. You're the number 5 in the rotation, and there you go. It is what it is, man.
Well, I think we should leave it there. I think we've done enough, and I've made fun of myself enough. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. This has been another edition of the Backwards K Baseball Show. You can find us wherever you find all of your amazing podcasts. You can find us on Facebook, on the Twitter, on the Impact Sports Cincinnati Network, and right here on the Craft Boot Sports Podcasting Network. We appreciate you listening. If you guys would subscribe, rate, and review, it helps us out more than you know. And hell, come find us. Come chat baseball with us. We love talking ball, and we appreciate you joining us. We'll be back again next Monday, rather. Wednesday. Good God. Nicky Lopez, everyone. We'll catch you next Monday here at 8. We appreciate you joining us. Peace. We're out.